gentlemen, I'll call this May the 15th meeting to order. The first item that I need to bring up is to excuse Mrs. Abel. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Second? Okay. All in favor? Okay, we'll excuse her. I have a couple of changes to make to or additions to the agenda. The first will be if there's anybody here who wants to make any comment from the public. An L&D update, just very briefly of where we're going concerning the letter that the board wrote to Dr. Paulus. We have a noise ordinance to look at, but not vote on tonight, but just to make you aware of. I have something about some Macon County berries, and then a request on the McQuancy Foundation. And then, of course, we've got the regular board action concerning the charter change, discussion of the proposed budget, and all of that. Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda as presented? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Is anybody from the public that wants to make any comments tonight? All right, let me just give you a brief update. I did not hear back from Dr. Paulus as yet on the letter that the board passed the other night on the labor and delivery. I have a hard time with that, I'm sorry. But there are several things taking place I'll make the board aware of. There is a group that has been organized, Operation Heartbeat 2, and they are meeting with the county commissioners tomorrow night. They have started a public relations campaign to try to get the hospital, Mission Health, to change their mind on this thing and send it. The next thing on the agenda is we have an ordinance notice that has been passed out, a proposed ordinance, if you'll check in your packets. Madam Manager, do you want to say anything about that?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Mayor and Board. Our town attorney was unable to be here tonight, but he did go ahead and send this to me. This is just a draft suggestion of how to maybe come up with a solution to deal with the issue that's happening on Depot Street. This is just for you to take under advisement, and we can relook at this again at our June board meeting. The attorney again just asked that we pass this out for you to start review of.
Appreciate everybody looking that over because this has been a problem, an ongoing problem. So the next item will be the board action regarding the charter of the town of Franklin to change the style of municipal corporation from board of aldermen to town council. Is there any discussion on the matter?
I kind of wondered if you would mind reiterating maybe some of the numbers and information we talked about in regards to kind of I know it's a guesstimation,
right?
Entirely guesstimation.
I have, and I don't care to share this with the board, our town clerk, Mr. Travis Talent, and myself reached out to Niles Hardeland with the American Legal Publishing, and we asked Niles if he could tell us how many times the term alderman or alderman appears. Last time when we were here, we were under the impression it may be 278 times. But in an email from American Publishing, they say that it appears 130 times throughout the code book, most of which is in chapter 15, in which the term appears multiple times. However, he cannot tell us if the term appears multiple times on the same page or on different pages. But it does look that it is used around 130 times, the term is. If you were to base it on that term, again, those figures aren't concrete, but if you were to base it on 130 times, if you wanted to change the entire ordinance book, it would be $2,340, or you could do just the base cover page for $18 for that page. And then I reached out to the town attorney as far as what it would cost for legal fees. And at this time, I have an email from Mr. Henning that says, I've been given some thought to the cost of the style change if adopted, and I continue that the cost on my end would be minimal. That's all I have from our attorney at this time. And again, it would be up to the board if you wanted to do your nameplates. You could phase them in over time, or if you wanted to do them all at once, It would be up to the board. Eventually, when and if you did that, it'd be around $100 each. And then if you were to change your business card, stationery, and website information, you could again do it all at once, or again, you can do it over a period of time. But you're looking at around $500 there. But it's at the will of the board how you want to approach this.
But you could do this with just a cover letter at the beginning of the ordinance books, saying that henceforth and forevermore, the name of this is town council. So that cover letter could be inserted in every ordinance book. The nameplates could be changed every time there's an election, which pretty much it is now unless somebody's reelected. So basically, I think that we're not talking about changing anything that's on the walls or anything of that. And the changes would be made over time. They would not all be made at one time. That's my understanding, and that's what the attorney has led me to believe. And the minutes going forward, some of those minutes can be changed on the website. We change the website all the time anyhow. We just added the Eclipse business just a while ago. So I don't think that there's anything that would cost anywhere near thousands of dollars if we did it very gradually, just with the cover letter at the beginning of the ordinance books, and then it would be a change and we could move forward from that point.
I guess my own question, do you see, or has one expressed any hesitation in the time period between changing that cover letter to changing everything? Is there a time frame in which we need to be operating under, or is it something that we think we can sit back and look at it?
And again, that's up to the board. You can approach it from either standpoint. If you want to piecemeal it throughout, you can, or if you want to bite the bullet and do it all at once. But that would be your board decision.
There is a time constraint to having to do it tonight, though.
Yes.
Because if we don't do it tonight, it's going to have to, it can't be brought up again for the next election.
I move that we accept this ordinance amending the charter of the town of Franklin and change the style of the governing board to the municipal corporation from Board of Aldermen to the council.
With the understanding that it would be done gradually over time, I'll second.
Okay. All right, call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, 3, all opposed. Okay, Madam Manager, we'll move forward. All right, the next item,
Let me ask you something.
yes, sir.
I don't see advantage in fixing on this. If we get into it, I'm not talking a ton of money. I never considered it an economic issue myself, although anytime you're spending money, it is an economic issue. I'd hate for us to see some of them say Alderman up here and some of them say town council or whatever. We need to be some uniformity. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Maybe we'll work around that.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can.
Right.
I know there's very strong feelings on both sides of the fence on this one.
But we're past that. We're
Yeah,
got to
we're
vote
past
now, and now we move to, yeah.
We'll work those out. I feel pretty sure this board is good at working things out. Okay, let's go to, I wanted to mention one thing. I want to pass it around. We have come up, you know how towns and counties love to give away coffee cups and ballpoint pens and all of that. Well, here is something that we're working with a local business, Harmony House Foods Incorporated, to give away packets of dried berries that grow in Macon County. And this is something that is not only useful, but it's edible. So Harmony House Foods has worked with us to come up with a prototype of this. And has everybody seen it? Have y'all
No,
seen
but
it?
yeah. I've seen their work. It's interesting.
Would you like to try one?
Not right now. I have enough whiskey to chase it down.
Can I try?
You certainly may, yes. So anyhow, I feel like it shows that the town wants to support our local businesses, and we get a feather in the cap for the town, and we get a feather in the cap for the local business also. So if the news media would like to photograph that, feel free to do so, but I've counted the berries, and there better not be any missing.
I'll come on, right from there.
All right. Okay, and the Niquosi request. Madam Manager, do you want to approach the Niquosi request
I
before we
can.
get into the budget?
This item came in today, it was emailed to me, and I just wanted to print that out for the board to have, the Niquosi request as we approach the budget this year, but this was a letter that came in today that I thought the board needed to have copies of.
This is something we've been talking about. I just thought the letter would help document it.
Is this something that would be, if passed, would it be in the new budget, or would this be a amendment to the existing budget?
I'm assuming based on the way the letter is wording, it would be for this new upcoming budget.
So it's really,
It's just for the budget.
it's a budget, yeah.
But it's just to
something-
provide us with a little paper trail, so
Right.
people know what it's all about.
Okay. So how do we want to proceed on this tonight, you think? Joe, you got any?
Well, I mean, you know,
Proceed on it?
we just need to open it up for the budget consideration in all. Obviously, that's one thing that Barbara and I want to discuss about that. I have an item or two that I want to see if we can still hook on to the train, but otherwise, we just need to figure out if everybody's comfortable with the numbers on the budget as presented to this point.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd love to take
Sure.
some time and go over it with the board.
On this request?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh,
It's the whole.
Oh, the whole back, oh, yeah, we're getting to that one. Okay. So on this item, you won't take any action on this tonight, or?
Well, it's just part of the budget.
It would be, Barbara, and I certainly am for it as well. It's, there's a good, rock-solid group of folks who are working towards the betterment of the town and the area of the town that needs as much betterment as any other area of the town. And it's got the potential to bootstrap in a lot of money from different areas. It's almost like you can put 10% in, you can get a match, and hopefully the rest of it. But I think it would be very short-sighted of Franklin not to help support this. We're not talking a lot of money. And the people who are involved are solid and they mean well, and they're trying their best to make our town a better place. And it'd be very hard, in my opinion, for us to not honor this request. I know, Barbara, you feel that way.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we're hoping for that the county and the tribe will also contribute. And the group has received an opt-in grant for this year.
Is that right?
So they're getting a lot of traction. There's a lot of interest in this. The project is to create a visitor center and to help develop the area around the mound to make it part of a tourism, heritage tourism, cultural corridor. There you go.
It's a magnificent project. Let me ask y'all this. Since money's pretty tight right now, I wonder if they would go if we gave half of it this year and half in the next budget year.
Then, yeah, that would be great.
Oh.
Sure.
And I don't know, I know that right now, things are pretty tight, and then there's also we've got to talk about the nonprofit funding pools too. Joe, do you think that would work to?
I mean, if we're talking $12,500, if we can't come up with that, you talking about half from this budget and half after July 1? Or are you talking about half after July 1 and half a year from that?
Whichever works better would be fine with me. I'm really not talking one or the other.
I just think we build it into the next budget, the 12.5.
To me, this is urban renewal.
Oh, I agree with that.
And I think the payback to the town will be.
If it gets off ground and gets going, oh yeah.
But would this request go along with if the county and the other parties here come up with the same, their amount? Would we put it
Contingent upon that.
contingent upon
I
that?
think the county wants to make theirs contingent on us.
Well, let's double up on the county.
I could buy that.
Yeah. Think we can shoehorn it in somewhere?
We can, and when we get to the end, if the mayor and board would like, we can look at where we could maybe reallocate some line items if that's what the board would like to do. If I may, Ms. McRae, is this a one-time or would this be an annual contribution?
Right now, this is
One
one
time.
time.
One time.
Okay, with the board's approval, let's come back to it after we've gone through the budget tonight and see where we stand. Okay, Madam Manager, it's your ball game.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. If we may, Board and Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take just a few moments and read through the budget message, just because I believe this is kind of a good oversight of the budget, and then we can dive into it kind of line by line. So each of you that have your notebooks, if you brought them, if you'll go ahead and just turn to under proposed budget, it'll be the budget message, and we'll go over that really quick, and hopefully this will highlight some of the items that the town has to look forward to in the upcoming year. The town of Franklin strives to provide quality services in a cost-effective manner to all citizens. The town of Franklin continues to operate in sound financial condition with a stable fund balance. This budget addresses the continued need for infrastructure planning for the town of Franklin. General government revenue sources are estimated to remain the same, with the exception of current ad valorem taxes and cable television franchise tax. Current year in ad valorem tax is suggested to decline by $42,024. Senior exemptions account for $23,914, and tax deferred accounts for $13,756. And tax exempt for partially outside city limits accounts for $4,354. This in total accounts for the current year ad valorem tax decline. Cable television franchise tax is no longer taxable. Therefore, there will be no cable television franchise tax collected for this upcoming fiscal year. The current ad valorem tax rate of 28 cents per $100 evaluation is recommended for fiscal year 2017-2018. However, the town continues to experience slow growth in water and sewer revenues. It is paramount that the town of Franklin ensures water and sewer revenues can sustain expenditures in order to maintain existing infrastructure and planning needs for future water and sewer infrastructure. The town should carefully prepare for unanticipated loss of revenues. Therefore, diligently maintaining a stable fund balance is key to long-term financial success. Personnel. This budget calls for a 2% cost of living adjustment and a 1% one-time payment based on salary for all positions. A 1% one-time payment is suggested for December 2017. The town's health insurance, dental, property, and workers' compensation premiums are expected to remain at current budgeted rates. Employee benefits are expected to remain the same with the exception of employee contribution percentage for family health coverage. Capital projects. The town will continue working on phase 1 of the water treatment plant and expansion project. Bid approval is expected of May 2017, which this board just did, and construction is expected to commence in July of 2017. Capital outlay equipment. The town continues to address current infrastructure needs within finance, IT, and the streets department. Tyler Technologies is currently working with the town of Franklin in replacing existing financial, tax, and utility software. Tyler Technologies has scheduled the town of Franklin a go-live date for financial and tax software for July 10th, 2017. Utility software is scheduled to go live September 25th, 2017. An additional server is needed to store data for all new software modules. The estimated cost for one additional server is $6,200. The IT department is in need of 2 switches for Town Hall and the wastewater treatment plant. 1 additional switch is needed at Town Hall to allow more ports for data. The switch at the wastewater treatment plant is over 5 years old and needs to be replaced within this budget year. The cost for both switches is $9,600. This budget also addresses the need to upgrade fiber lines for more bandwidth capacity. The current bandwidth for all town facilities is 8 megabytes. The IT department suggests upgrading the town of Franklin's fiber line to 20 megabytes. This would increase town facilities bandwidth from 8 megabytes to 20 megabytes. The cost for this upgrade would be $5,300. The IT department is also requesting a new phone system for town facilities. The current phone system is almost 10 years old. Parts for the current phone system are no longer available due to the age of the system. The warranty period and service contract are no longer valid due to the age of the system. The total cost for the new system would be $17,500. Improvements to Memorial Park are budgeted with the streets department. Memorial Park is centrally located in the heart of Franklin. Many residents and visitors utilize Memorial Park. The town of Franklin has made significant improvements to the outside area of Memorial Park over the past couple of years. This budget allots $17,000 for interior improvements to Memorial Park. Capital outlay improvements. Funds have been budgeted to replace the tent at the gazebo area. Administration has been working with various companies to design a tent that would be better suited for the vast use of the gazebo located downtown. Funds have also been budgeted to begin the replacement of the town of Franklin banners. Capital outlay vehicles. The police department will be replacing one patrol vehicle with over 100,000 miles. The sewer department will be replacing one half-ton pickup with over 100,000. Contributions. Nonprofit funding for community organizations are left at the current total budget of $40,000. Economic development funds are left at the current budget of $7,000. Debt service. All debt service payments are budgeted as required by law. General debt service principal is budgeted at $168,120 and interest at $26,755. Fire debt service principal is budgeted at $71,181 and interest at $3,387. Water and sewer debt service principal is budgeted at $658,315 and interest at $223,190. The town secured a $3,578,750 loan through the North Carolina State Revolving Loan Fund for upgrades to the expansion of the water plant. The first debt service payment will not be due until fiscal year 2018-2019. SunTrust loan for general water and sewer projects was entered into in 2012 and will be paid in 2024. The total loan amount for SunTrust is $4,903,805.29. Bank of America for water and sewer projects was entered into in 2010 and will be paid in 2025. The total loan amount for Bank of America is $3,820,423.14. State revolving loan for wastewater treatment plant was entered into in 2013 and will be paid in 2033. The total loan amount for this project was $6,507,962.59. Diversified lenders loan for new software was entered into in 2017 and will be paid in 2020. The total loan amount for diversified lenders is $181,528.56. PNC and Integra Bank fire truck loan was entered into in 2011 and will be paid in 2020. The total amount that will be paid for the fire trucks will be $1,502,836.32. Fire department. The current fire tax rate is 0.0445 cents per $100 evaluation. A modest tax increase is suggested for fiscal year 2017-2018. Funds are budgeted based on a proposed fire tax rate of 0.0545 cents per $100 evaluation. Franklin Fire Department must begin preparation to replace existing fleet that is approaching life service. Based on the proposed fire tax rate, no fund balance will be needed to be appropriated for fiscal year 2017-2018. Also, fire call pay for volunteers is expected to remain at current rates. Current rates are $5 for medical and $12 for fire calls. Water and sewer department. Funds are budgeted to replace the sewer line at Old Ingles and the sewer line at Harrison Avenue. The cost anticipated to replace the above-referenced sewer lines is $121,000. Funds are also budgeted to replace the water line at Apple Tree Lane, the pump station at Apple Tree Lane, and the booster pump at Brookwood. The cost anticipated to replace the above-referenced water lines is $54,000. All of the above-referenced projects are part of the town's capital improvements plan. The basin at the water plant only needs to be cleaned every 5 years. However, this budget allots funding of $30,000 this fiscal year. The reason for this is to continue a reserve account for this project in preparation for cleaning the drainage basin in fiscal year 2018-2019. The total estimated cost to clean the basin is $150,000. Water and sewer rates. Based on current estimates, water and sewer revenue combined are projected at $3,807,911. A modest appropriation from water and sewer retained earnings of $324,456 is recommended. Martin McGill completed a detailed water and sewer study in January 2015. in order to maintain the existing infrastructure, to upgrade and expand the water plant, and continue funding the town's comprehensive improvements plan, a modest water and sewer rate increase is recommended. A 4% rate increase is recommended for water and sewer. The proposed rate increases only affect base and volume charges, but not tap, connection, or other miscellaneous charges. Conclusion. This budget for local fiscal year 2017-2018 is balanced as required by law and continues to provide existing services while meeting the governing board's priorities and policies. This budget includes an appropriation in general fund of $450,000 for Powellville. This budget also recommends a one-time modest appropriation from general fund balance of $119,000 to address the town's infrastructure needs. This budget addresses long-term infrastructure planning for the town of Franklin while maintaining a healthy fund balance and providing quality services in a cost-effective manner. So with that, if the board would like, we can start looking maybe at revenue and expenditures, and I've got some notes to highlight. One thing you'll notice, you'll each have a handout. It's called Budget Notes One-Time Expenditures. For one-time expenditures, it was suggested that we would need an appropriation of our general fund balance of $119,000. You can see on your one-time expenditure sheets that the total cost, which would be one-time expenses, would be $119,200, which this would be an appropriate use of your fund balance because they're one-time.
So that's a police car. We always,
Not always.
every year we have a police car or two. A lot of this stuff doesn't, how much is what is our fund balance that we sitting on now?
You have right at $700,000.
In the budget, just for this, supposed to get 120, and that doesn't include what what we talked about,
Correct.
12.5, and of course I've got another wish list myself. I'm not comfortable putting some of this stuff, considering it one-time expenditures, especially something like a police vehicle, because that's just many units we have every year, we've got to build that in. Is money that tight?
It's pretty tight.
Pretty tight.
Of course, we didn't use any of the fund balance.
We're hoping to look, if you'll note, this past year, we had budgeted $168,000 in total appropriations of your fund balance. With due diligence from your department heads, we're hoping not to have to use any of that. So again, with departments being diligent in their budget process, $119,000 is suggested, but we're hoping we won't have to get to that point to dip in.
I'm aware of that, it's estimates. Other than these here and what Barbara has presented, and if you do recall from time to time, I have espoused what I believe would be a very valuable asset to have, which is the portable restroom, which could be used for whatever events that we would use it for. I expect that we would have about $30,000 in a good one, not necessarily a brand new one. I think my understanding of research is a pretty ready market for them, meaning that if we were to acquire it and find that maybe there weren't enough days of the year that we were using it, it would be something that would be readily convertible back in. As I've said before, we are uniquely situated with our staff to be able to maintain it, with our facilities to be able to take care of the product, so to speak. So we are well situated for that. And this is not something I'm stealing from another town or another city. I just know that restrooms, on occasions, are gold. And nobody likes porta potties. These are not porta potties. So when you go into them, it's like you're in a restroom. I just think we're uniquely situated to try it out. If you start adding up the number of days, every time I'm getting my hair cut at Frankie's on Saturday morning, and there's a little stream coming in from the farmer's market, Because when we set them up there, we invite them to come to town, but there's no place for them to, you know, to go to the restroom. There's time after time where we might not. And so, you know, it would be about $30,000. And like I say, that the good side is that if it turns out, for whatever reason, we didn't feel like it was a continuing part of it, I suspect we could get most of it back through the way the market is.
We could rent it out.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so, but, and I'm just opening this up for discussion.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know these festivals, and there's 2,000 people and 3 restrooms.
But how many doors, I guess I'm asking, is there in this portable restroom?
Well, it depends on how many dollars you want to put for the doors, but the one I'm talking
I'm
about.
talking about stalls or
What I'm talking about
facilities.
is 2 private women's rooms and 1 private men's room, which has a urinal and, I mean,
Right.
basically it could take care of about 4 people at any one time or 6 or so, but it, you know, that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, you can get different sizes.
What would the cost be as opposed to portable toilets, which I go to a lot of things and I really don't hear any complaints about the portable toilets.
And Mr. Mayor, Ford, if I may, going back to the event center, for instance, the events that the town sponsors, those are donated to us, which I think is very nice, companies to do that.
It's a, if you want to try to compare a portable toilet to these, you don't get very far, although they both provide, I guess, the cover and all, but you know, few things over time have I really pitched in this way, but I just kind of feel, I got a feeling this will be on, I got a feeling it'll be one of the best things that we ever did, but I could be wrong.
Well, you know, it's sort of related, but the main compliment that I hear over and over about the Greenway, as much as everyone loves the Greenway, the most effusive compliments that I have heard is about how clean and nice the restrooms are. People are just so surprised. So that, you know, in a facility like that, that we have nice restrooms. So people really do notice things like that. I do.
And so if in fact we were to be looking in that direction, that would be adding another 42,000 or so to.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other, besides those 2 items, anybody else throwing in their final wish list?
I got one this line.
Yeah.
Well, just looking over the budget notes here about the one-time expenditures, everything on there are things that wear out. They have a life expectancy, so there's nothing on here that I see, maybe other than
The Eclipse
so
Lane.
like the Eclipse Festival, and I've already been blamed for that being on the wrong day.
Yes, Bob, I do agree with you there. I have a hard time considering most of those one-time expenditures. Some are just trying to shuffle the numbers around.
No, I mean, they wear out. They're absolutely necessary. The police car, you know, you look at the mileage on a police car, it's a little like a fire truck. You can't go by the mileage because those things sit and idle for hours and hours and hours. And police cars don't necessarily deal with the same group that limos do, but I don't know, I don't see anything on that budget, those budget notes that I just, I'll be honest with you, Joe, I just don't see a portable restroom at $42,000.
No, 30.
30, okay, 30.
12.5 is Barbara, I mean, the other one.
Oh, well, yeah. Not when I think that no more events than we have, that the portable ones serve the purpose. We're not going to have a lot of people, I don't think, going in there and shaving or anything of that nature where you, and I've seen some portable toilets that are pretty nice, and they have hand washing facilities and all like that. And some of the places I've been before, I would love to have seen a portable toilet. But I don't know. I'm open to further discussion, whatever you want to do.
What department would that be considered under and managed by if it was
That's another cost you would have.
Yes.
That maintenance.
I didn't know what department that was, or if
That
that
would fall
department
under your
itself.
streets department. And if you wanted to look at doing it on the weekend, you'd also need to consider hiring someone to come in and move it from place to place.
And your portable toilets, they take care of all the maintenance and the cleaning and all of like that. We don't have to worry about it. They set it up,
They come and
people
take
use
it.
it, they come to get it. I don't know.
And we should talk them into buying one,
Now, that's,
and we could rent it from them.
And I also, if the board would like, we can go through, I've got some of where your expenditures increased and decreased, if you guys would like to look at that tonight.
sure.
Okay? So if we can, let's continue on. You've got your budget ordinance, and then followed by your Exhibit A, which is your revenue line items. And if you'll notice, this looks at your revenues and expenditures in Exhibit A, and it basically combines all four funds that we have, which is your general fund, your fire department fund, your water and sewer enterprise fund, and your TDA fund. So the total town of Franklin budget, when you combine all funds, is $8,699,991. And we can keep going, so if you guys have any questions, just feel free to stop. Your next page is Schedule 1, Page 1, and some highlights that we noted in the message. You can see your current ad valorem taxes are expected to decline by $42,024. Another thing to note on this particular page is your motor vehicle. In previous years, motor vehicle was accounted for together with your rental tax. So this year we broke it down to track it better, and a lot of your vehicle tax is from Enterprise that's here in town. So that's been a huge asset to the town of Franklin with them moving in town. The next thing, you can see that most of your revenue items from where we met at our April meeting have pretty much projected to stay the same. A couple of things to note on this particular page is your NCDOT Bike and Pedestrian Planning Grant. That's finished this year, so you don't have any funds available for there. And then your lease purchase proceeds, that's not budgeted this year. That's an accounting practice for audit purposes where we had to account for the new software for last year. You show it as both the revenue and an expenditure, so that's why you don't see anything budgeted there. Your next page, a couple of things, this is Schedule 1, Page 2. Again, this is in your revenues. A couple of things to note is your cable television franchise tax is no longer there at $2,200. Just based on current estimates, we did decrease your zoning permits. They decreased by about $1,500. Your beer and wine tax, we've broken that out, and it's almost a new line item within itself to track it. It's coming in at projections of around $17,500. The other thing to note on this particular page that we discussed at our revenue work session is the sale of equipment. It was an accounting practice that Ms. Doster and I looked at this entire budget year. There was some employee withholdings that were being shown as a revenue when it should have been as a budget amendment at the end. So we did adjust that to show correct revenues for that particular line item. Your special events, if you'll note that we only budgeted $5,000, and last year we had $7,335. When we originally started the budget this year that we're in now, we had budgeted $5,000. But we ended in taking in more of $2,335. I think it was probably mid-year this year, we did a budget amendment to reappropriate that additional funding that we received from some festivals. And then, again, if you'll look at your fund balance, your POW bill is the same at $450,000. When we started this budget last year, we thought that we were going to need to appropriate $164,000. And then this year, we're suggesting $119,000. Any questions on the revenue side?
The power bill funds did not drop.
No, sir.
Okay. A lot of people were worried they were going to
Yes.
tank out.
Your next page, we're kind of going to move into the expenditures, just a couple highlights. Your governing body actually decreased $1,375. We were able to move around on your training. We had a little bit of additional training last year we just haven't ended up using, so we're able to drop that a little bit. A couple things to note for your economic development, if this was something you were wanting to look at for your Glossy initiative, there is $7,000 budgeted in economic development that you could utilize there.
Is-
I'm sorry.
Is that the $7,000 that we put in with the county on
For
that?
Franklin Tubular.
Tubular
That
project?
last
So
payment was
that's
this year
been paid off, so we've got
Yes, sir.
$7,000 floating there.
for economic development. Your picking on the square is estimated at $28,500, and then the Franklin Area Chamber of Commerce, that is the town's contribution to the annual fireworks. Okay? Administration, we had a couple that increased by $5,322. Two of your biggest increases there are your travel and training. One thing that our town clerk and I thought for administration would be a great asset for them to obtain is their municipal certified clerk certificate from the School of Government. It's a 2-year process, but you have to pay for it in one budget year. And then the second cost is under your other professional services. American Legal Publishing, we're looking to take the code book online, and some quotes that we've received is around $3,800. Okay. In finance, you had an increase of $5,788. And the main thing that increased here was in your contracted services. We had to start allotting some funding for your fraud filters and positive pay, which this increased by about $1,500 to that line item. Billing and collections, that's the next one. This line increased by $5,180. Your travel and training increased, the two things to note here, travel and training increased $1,865. There was some additional classes that this department needed to take in order to maintain their certifications. And then the other thing to note on this particular page is tax overpayment and refunds. It actually increased $2,456. Those are just tax refunds that our tax collectors already made the assumption that we will owe this upcoming budget year. So that's your big items there. Under legal and elections, the two biggest things there is it increased $6,300. You have your election expense of $5,000, and then of course that affected your legal advertising, which increased $1,300.
And that may come to pass in the legislature that will no longer be required to do legal advertising. That bill is floating around to do away with where you have to advertise in the newspaper record. We don't know whether it's going to pass or not.
In our facilities, this line item actually decreased by $4,884. Building maintenance, if you'll notice that, that's increased. It was budgeted at $15,000 this current year. For the new proposed year, it's at $23,000, and your largest increase there is for the new phone system for $17,500 was budgeted. The next item to note on this particular budget is your property maintenance. That decreased, it was at $21,500. And that decreased by $15,500. That's where the board last year appropriated funding to clean up the Whitmire property. So the only line item that's spent out of property maintenance is Nick-Wassey mowing and maintenance at that particular area. The next item is your IT department. And if you look at this, it looks like it decreased by $170,645. And this goes back to when we were showing in the lease purchase proceeds, the revenue, you also, for the new Tyler software, you also have to show it as an expenditure. So that's why this particular department looks like it's under. Couple things to note, you have your supplies increased $3,081, and that's due to the Carbonite renewal and the PD license that we have to have for Carbonite. It's a basic backup to all the town's computer systems. Utilities decreased by $13,000 because each department is now accounting for the employee cell phones that they have issued to them. Your non-capital increased by $4,543, and this totals the two switches that were referenced earlier for the town of Franklin Town Hall and the water treatment plant for $9,600. And then your capital outlay, of course, decreased by $167,269. That was partly because of the new software from last year. In this, you have the new server for $6,200, and you have the 20 megabytes fiber for $5,300. Your police department increased by $14,148, Utilities increased, a couple things to note on this particular budget. Utilities increased by $7,600. Two things contributed to that increase. One is partly because of the cell phones that they're now showing, but also because of the new generator. We also have a utilities bill with the natural gas that's associated with that. So that increased slightly. Also, you have your pay plan implementation of $4,462. Your capital outlay equipment decreased. There's nothing budgeted there. It was at $25,500 the year that we're in right now, but that was where we budgeted for the new generator. And then, of course, you have the new vehicle at $38,000 that's budgeted for this upcoming year. Your law enforcement separation, it actually decreased by $7,460. And the reason why is we went from having 3 individuals on this to now we only have 2. Streets and maintenance, that decreased by $40,912. A couple items to note on this particular budget. Utilities increased $10,000, and that's due to the new street lights on Depot Street. And then your equipment maintenance increased by $15,000, and that's due to the age of our street sweeper and also the tractor that we currently have. It's taking a lot of equipment maintenance funds to keep those up and going. The lease payment is for 1 backhoe, and when we started the budget last year, we had accounted for the lease at being $19,100. It actually come in being significantly less, so that decreased by $1,600. And then your capital outlay equipment was for the new lawnmower that we purchased this year that we no longer have for this upcoming budget year. And then finally, on this particular budget, you have the capital outlay improvements for $50,000. Last year was the project that the town of Franklin did for Fox Ridge. And then this budget year, you have $8,102 for a new tent at the gazebo, and then $10,000 to look at replacing banners throughout town. As many of you probably noticed, they're over 10 years old and they're starting to fall and become very dilapidated. So there's funding there for that if the town would like. Your next is your power bill, and that's projected to remain the same as the current year at $450,000. Your next expenditure line item would be your planning and economic development. That increased by $1,461. Your contract, couple things to notice, your contract services decreased by $2,000. The reason why is when we had that budgeted at 10, that was for when the town was still continuing, which we have hopefully successfully got into, the flood insurance program. So this is also, we decreased because there hopefully won't be as many buildings that will need to assist to try and get into that program. The next line item that you have is for your grants. All of those have zeroed out. And something to note, town staff, we are working with, and I believe Mayor Scott has reached out to them as well, Martin and McGill. We've been in conversation with them to maybe meet with them and see if they know of any water and sewer infrastructure grants that are available or any other grants that the town could apply for, because that's their realm of expertise. So we're continuing to pursue that option. Festivals and events, it increased by $5,165, and again, the largest contributor here is under contribution, which is the solar eclipse, and the solar eclipse is budgeted around $7,500 to put that on. Your next line item is traffic and event services. It decreased by $1,400. The main contributor here was supplies decreased by $1,000. Due to we had budgeted this current year in which we purchased some new barricades for traffic. We won't be needing to purchase them this upcoming year, so we're able to decrease that line item by $1,000. And then your retiree health insurance increased by $2,688. So you've got that there. Your debt service. All debt service is budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year, but it actually decreased by $39,921. The town will be able to roll off their books. And then contingency, we decreased from $73,500 to $70,000. Any questions while we're on the general fund before we move to fire? Okay. Fire department Again, this is going to be a little bit of a tricky one because you have your lease purchase, your installment purchase proceeds from where the town renegotiated a new financing agreement with Integra Bank. So when you try and compare it, it actually looks like the fire department fund decreased by $419,000, and it didn't because again, it's just showing the installment lease purchase proceeds. A couple things to note in this particular budget, if the town of Franklin is able to secure the 1 cent increase, no fund balance would need to be appropriated for the upcoming fiscal year 17-18. That would also allow the fire department to start building their fund balance back up from the purchase of the 2 fire apparatus. The 1 cent proposed tax increase would generate around $174,996. And then this particular budget would allow all shifts to have 2 personnel per shift, meaning we're not hiring any additional staff. We have 7 full-time firefighters, including our chief, but the 6 would now be able to work in partnerships versus having one individual work a 24-hour shift and one individual work a 12-hour shift. So we would be able to do that without adding additional personnel. We did budget for part-time salaries, which is a new item. This would allow for time to be taken off for those 2 shifts, or for the partners for each shift, so you're not stuck paying out quite a bit of overtime. However, if you'll note on the overtime line item by state law, we have to show where if we did pay out overtime, what it would look like for all 6 of those employees. So you do see a slight increase there. Your capital outlay equipment is another one to note. You'll see last year we budgeted $30,822. This year we didn't budget anything. That was for the purchase of the extrication equipment, which we did secure. Your capital outlay vehicle, you'll notice there's suggested of $60,707. This is a newer line item to start building a reserve for the fire department's vehicles, to start replacing those because we are currently down a couple vehicles over previous years. So this is not suggesting to go and purchase a vehicle for $60,000, more so just to start building a reserve so we can purchase. And then of course your principal and interest are budgeted at $74,568. And then this also looks at a possible pay plan implementation of $15,000 to bring some of our career employees up to the minimum standards. Any questions on the fire department fund? Okay, if we can move on to water and sewer. So overall, if you were to look at the bottom line of water and sewer from 2016 to 2017, it's increased by $16,115. This budget suggests that utility fees for both water and sewer are based on a 4% utility increase. We did note on here that taps and connections, it decreased from $50,000 to $550. One of the suggestions there was when we started the budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, we were aware of some new development, particularly Ingalls. This year we're not certain of any, so we just trended based on previous, for the past 5 budget cycles, what we can at least expect to take in. If you will now go down to the expenditures, a couple items to note that's significantly different is other professional services decreased by $10,000 for this new year. There's an additional $10,000 in there for this year because the sewer plant contracted with an engineering firm, Dewberry, to do some pre-treatment work. So we were able to do that this current fiscal year, so that was why other professional services were able to decrease. You will also notice in this budget that supplies increased by $34,895. Of this, $27,000 is due in the water supplies. The state has suggested that the town move away from chlorine gas and adhere to an ADC bleach. Up front, it's $27,000, but the hope is between 2 to 5 years, the town will be able to recoup some of those costs with the supplies that they would, no longer have to try and purchase. So, next we have our building maintenance. It decreased by $15,287. The reason behind this was we were able to put a new roof on the sewer plant, which we won't be doing that this year, so you'll see a decrease there. Your capital outlay equipment decreased by $30,131, and this was due to the new generator that we purchased at the industrial park for the current fiscal year that we're in. Your equipment maintenance increased by $29,773, but contract services decreased by $48,973. The reason why, after meeting with some of our department heads in previous budget cycles, they were trying to allocate funds for contracted services when it was more of an equipment maintenance issue, so we've tried to clean that up. And then we also have the sewer line for Old Ingles and Harrison Avenue is budgeted at $121,000. Your capital outlay water lines include Apple Tree Lane Pump Station, and the Brookwood Booster Pump for $54,000. And if you'll note, the total that we spent for both capital outlay sewer and capital outlay water lines last year was $175,000 combined. And if you combine the two this year, it would be $175,000 as well. Your non-capital equipment increased by $5,000, and this is due to 4 new computers and a printer that needs to go within 4 departments in water and sewer. And then finally, your reserve for the pump lagoons is in there again at $30,000. Questions or comments with water and sewer? Okay. And then your final is your tourism development budget. And last year we budgeted $118,522. At this particular time, it's suggested for 17-18 at $118,522 as well.
Tourism Development Authority, is that, they're bringing in $118,000 a year?
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor.
If one of the things that is also floating around in the legislation is the ability of the towns with TDAs to use those funds for more than just tourist development, such as your infrastructure, sidewalk repairs. And I think universally across the state, towns are really wanting to be able to have more say-so in how those room occupancy taxes are used within the town to improve the things once the tourists get here. So I just bring that out. Right now, I guess we're pretty locked in as to what we can spend still, even though we're bringing in that much money. Madam Manager, that's a big order you just gave us there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Board. 2 final notes on this. You'll notice that you have before you a corrected fire department budget. There was just a small clerical error. The ones that you have in your sheets, and of course we have it available for the news media, under fire call pay, your sheet shows that there was 0 budgeted for 16-17. It should actually be $50,000. And then part-time salary shows that it should be budgeted at 0. So that's just a correction. But with that being said, I certainly, the budget would not have been possible without the department heads and then really diligently working to continue to provide services on behalf of the town board to the citizens of Franklin. And then also, of course, to our finance officer. Without the departments, we have a great group of employees that work for the town of Franklin that deserve a lot of credit for the hard work that they do for us.
Absolutely. In looking over the budget here and going around the table, one thing that's come up, and I think it's a good idea, is that we all step up if you've got a wish list and make those things known as we get into the budget sessions. And one question I wanted to ask you about was the banners.
Mm-hmm.
Are these the sort of the Discover Us?
Yes, sir.
Madam Manager, I may get in the doghouse about this, but banners don't do wins very well.
No, sir, they don't.
Is that something that really, with this tight budget that we have right now, is totally necessary, do you think?
It's completely up to the board.
What's the board feel about it? You've seen them, some of them have kind of come loose from their brackets. What's the feeling of the board on those banners? We've had a couple of things come up tonight, like the McCloskey Fund. Anybody got any thoughts on the banners? Anybody can't live without them?
I'm not crazy about the ones we have. I've been in towns where they're very eye-catching and appealing, but I don't know how necessary they are.
I guess one thing I'm thinking about too, with all the amount of road construction going on right now, and probably for the next year, I'm not really sure whether we want banners with all the, I'm already hearing, well, why can't y'all build that bridge in 6 months like Atlanta did with their bridge?
Yeah.
They didn't have to tear theirs down.
Absolutely not, they did not, and no. But we've got an eclipse and they don't, so.
So what's the $10,000 on the banners represent?
It would be able to replace all the banners throughout the town of Franklin on your bypasses. We did get some quotes. They're rather expensive to start replacing, and that probably, the 10,000 would maybe get half of them, to be completely honest.
And then they have a life expectancy.
They have a life expectancy of 8 to 10 years, and the town got some use out of those banners.
What if we took down the ones that are kind of shredded now and left the ones that are still usable up for the time being until we get through all this road construction in the town?
I'd hate just to base it on road construction.
Well, I'm not, yeah.
Well, I mean, it
Right.
could be a policy decision, not based upon road construction. I'd hate to see us abandon the project. We've got a lot of vested in it. We've got a lot of, everything there. $10,000 is not a huge sum if we're talking about. I would just hate to think that we would abandon that part of us.
Do we have anything that could be reused, like are the brackets reusable?
The brackets are reusable. That's just to replace the actual banner portion.
Is there any way we can like do a survey and find out spots where the wind is, there must be some spots where the
If
wind
it
is
means
really
taking them
moving.
down in selective areas because it just they don't hold up well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if we don't put the budget in this year, then they're just gonna end up, at some point in time, we're gonna have to take them all down because they all look ratty, and they should have done it 5 years earlier because they looked ratty then, but we didn't do it. So, I mean, the question is, are we gonna get out of the banners or not? That's what it boils down to.
I think you're exactly
Right, because otherwise you're gonna either invest some on an annual basis, or you just let them all wear out, and I'm just not.
Yeah, I think we ought to leave it in there, and if we decide we don't want the banners, there might be some other street improvement.
We're not, there's a lot of talk out there, other towns getting ahead of us in a lot of ways, and a lot of it is how the downtown area is perceived and stuff like that, so I would hope we wouldn't. I guess I'm not a huge banner person, but I'm kind of in favor of leaving that line item. Not as much as my bathroom, but my line item.
We will be having a budget work session.
This is the budget work.
This is it too, okay.
Mhm.
I was going to suggest, okay. Well, it's up to this board. You can either leave it in, you can take it out, or you can modify it, whatever's the pleasure of the board.
I think we should leave, I think we should leave it.
Just leave it in, okay.
But can we vote on the banners this
The design, absolutely.
You said that's only gonna replace about half of them? Would that mean that half of them are new and half of them are still ratty?
So it goes back to what Alderman Collins was stating earlier, you've got to start sometime replacing it, or you're going to continue the cycle to where, I mean, we'll try and get the ones that are the worst case scenario right now, but they're all looking pretty bad.
I wouldn't discount, although it's probably minimal, there might be some market for the ones that you're taking down.
Good point.
You know what I mean? I'd like to buy one or two just because but it's not enough budget in. I know that, that millage rate has been static for how many years? 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I just feel it's getting squeezed pretty tight here, and I don't see any big projects. I don't see anything really big, but every time you've got to add 2% here and 2% there and stuff for, your manpower, and then start adding. It used to be that we could count on, if we had to, on the budget to put in some from the fund balance, we almost knew that we would never have to get there. It's getting harder to do that now. And I'm not anxious in getting our fund balance down. Billy and I remember historically higher levels. Now, granted, we can justify it to, hopefully to a full extent, but to a great extent. But this may not be the year, but we may not, but I'm not sure how we can go this number from this one.
I'm really hopeful that our revenues will start improving because I think the economy has gotten so much better. And you're starting to see some construction, some projects going on that will benefit us.
And folks,
And also the the sales tax.
we've got the 900-pound gorilla is the Whitmire property. It came straight out of our fund balance years ago and never has been put back in. And there is no rationale, rhyme, or reason that we don't go ahead and figure out the best use for it. And I'm sure we won't get all of the money back out of it, given where the market is, but that, to me, is kind of our ace in the hole, and that if we can get that percolating and we get that useful again, then that could help us restore what I believe that we would need to have as an additional fund balance. And we're not working real hard towards it right now, and I think once we get past this budget cycle, that's where we need to focus a lot of our attention.
Does the board feel like our tax rate is pretty reasonable right now, in line with other towns? You were saying that we're falling behind. What was Sylvan going, 8 cents? Is it 8 cents that Page told us?
They went 12 last year.
12, yeah. Yeah, I know to get some of these things, you're going to have the revenue. And, I think the last increase we had was a 1 or 2% 2 years ago. Or was it 3 years ago?
1 cent.
1 cent, I believe it was. And we figured that 1 cent generated, I think, around $100,000. No, 60 times. 2 cents was around 100 and something, 110, 120. Okay. I'll tell you, in the past too, we've never had these cuts that come down from Raleigh, the privilege license, all of these things, the Cape Annex. It's been some interesting times.
Are there any other, possible grant sources of income that we can pursue?
That's
Especially
what we're
for
going to
special
talk
projects.
to McGill about. See, that's another thing, your CDBG grants that we used to rely on. Look at all the things that were built around here. Bureau of Outdoor Recreation, the rec park. There used to be all kinds of grant money, and now it's just not there. This is a tough time for municipalities statewide.
But what I'm seeing, Bob, is as presented, I think the 12.5, even if we have to use the 7,000 that's in the TD, because that's exactly what it would be, Barbara. And so effectively, it would only be a $1,500. If it means pulling back my wish list on Santa Claus this year, I could live with that. If unless the board really feels strongly about it, I could live without that. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much getting focused in on where we're. I don't sense the board's ready to raise taxes this year on the ad valorem. Am I wrong? Billy, what do you think?
Well, I prefer not to. I'd like to stretch it one more, but you're right about one thing, we can't stretch it much more.
It's getting tight.
Tight.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Billy, sort of same thing.
Yeah.
Really, not really ready necessarily right now, but I think it's something I have to look at really closely over the next year. Really close.
You know, I've never hesitated to come up with a tax increase, but I am now. But,
Yeah, since our water and sewer rates going up.
right. And the fire tax going up a little bit. We'll squeak by. Joe, how would you and Barbara feel about if we made a pledge of half of that now and half next budget?
It's too big of a project, Bob. It's too big of a deal to go in on the. If I'm gonna pull back my damn $30,000 bathroom, I want $12,500.
with you. Well,
Well, I think that what it would do for us besides making the project possible, or helping to make the project possible, is creating a real momentum, showing that these governmental agencies involved are really, really behind this, and really that will help us raise money from other sources.
Well, let me ask you this, but we got a seat at the table, what's going, I mean, I want to make
Well,
sure.
I'm on the board,
I know
and that
you're
will
on the board.
continue. I mean, there will always be a representative of the town of Franklin on that board.
Okay.
We would get one as much as the county or the, I mean, but it's a, yeah. it's a select group,
Equal
right.
rights that the county would get.
Mm.
Well, if we do a motion, would y'all be okay with saying contingent upon these other organizations coming up with their share of it?
Yes,
Would
that's.
that be, I mean, I don't want us to be the only one to come up.
We wouldn't be of value unless they all did, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Right now, we're functioning mainspring is funding us, really.
I don't know, Bob, especially if 7 of it can come from the line item that Summer talked about earlier. I would just say we just do it and show that the town is behind the project. I think it's an important
That's what I
project.
think.
But I mean, and not even saying contingent upon, but just we're gonna do this. Whether these other entities do or not is on them, but we're gonna do it because we believe in the project.
I think effectively we'd get to the same place, because if they didn't raise the money that needed, they wouldn't
Right.
move forward anyway.
That's true, exactly. And this might encourage the others to,
I think y'all would encourage,
maybe they'll want to show us up, but it won't.
if they do, they show us up, because we can't match it. Yeah, I'm fine, if we want a consensus, or we want to vote on it, and how do we
We
want
have
to
to have
word
it,
it?
we have, well, we just,
May I ask
Sure.
the mayor and board, where would you, does the board have any suggestions of where we've got 7,000 in the current economic development, where they would like administration and finance to take the remainder 5,500 from?
Could we take it out of the banners, or is that something that's pressing right
Up to the
now?
board.
You don't seem
can we
comfortable
take it
with
out
that?
of the fund balance?
Yeah.
I would,
If there was ever a one-time expenditure, it'd be that, then police car ain't no one-time expenditure.
can I make an exception? What if you decreased your contingency? 70, you decrease it 5,500?
Yeah.
Good solution.
Yeah. It's just numbers on the page.
Okay, I'm open to a motion, and how you want to word it.
Can we vote on these?
We have to have a public hearing.
What I'll do, Mr. Mayor and Board, Finance Officer Doster and I will make that correction. And when we present the budget to you guys, you'll get it in your agenda packet prior to your June 5th meeting. It'll reflect those changes.
Okay, just see where it's coming from, and,
Yeah, we'll show that.
all right, anything for the good of the cause tonight? Going around the table, anybody? All right, it was a good meeting, thank y'all all, and I just want to echo what the manager said about what the employees have done. I've watched them, they spent hours and hours and hours, and I think this is the best budget that's ever been prepared for this country.
I'm very, very impressed with the knowledge that you all have of the town's operations. It's very good.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
All right, is there a second?
Yeah.
Okay,
We all.
we're still adjourned.
What you doing back there?